and special thanks to all of the family members who are joining us today, as well as all of our airmen around the country and around the world. As you may know, in mid-October, the Air Force hosted a spouse and family forum so that we could hear all about the issues that are affecting our airmen and their loved ones. Now, at that forum, I promised that we would come up with a list of actionable responses to address as many of the concerns that you brought forward to us as possible. I told you we would make best efforts to identify some areas where we can make immediate impact, and then there would be other areas where we would get the ball rolling for longer term action. So that's why we're here today, and now let's get to it. The first topic is taking care of airmen with exceptional family members. So at the forum, we heard all about how these families are not always getting the support that they need with housing and specialized support personnel. So today, I'm very pleased to announce that we will hire 44 additional family support coordinators so that every base with more than 200 exceptional family members will have a dedicated coordinator going forward. We're also increasing the number of respite care hours that our EFMP families can receive. Currently it's 12, and that's going to be going up to 40 hours per month. We have secured funding for these initiatives in 2017 as well as in the 2018 budgets, and we're going to incorporate them into our plans for 2019 and beyond. Moreover, our installations and engineering offices in headquarters will conduct an assessment on the availability of ADA compliant housing for EFMP families and report back on proposed solutions for deficiencies. And because we want to make sure that our EFMP families are aware of all the support that is available to them, we're going to launch quarterly events to specifically address these issues and answer your questions going forward. The first such event will take place on January the 12th, 2017, so please mark your calendars. Another topic we discussed at the summit was childcare, and we consistently heard about issues involving childcare options for our families, particularly the stringent rules involved with requirements for our family childcare providers. So as a first step, we're going to do a study on the requirement that stands today, which is that family child care providers sleep on the same floor as all the children under 8 years of age in the home. We're going to do this study, and we're going to see whether we need to change this going forward. Next is spouse employment and school considerations for our military children. And by the way, we heard loud and clear that moving from state to state presents some major issues for family members. Some spouses, like nurses, teachers, and lawyers, have a lot of difficulty transferring their licenses from state to state. Moving children during the school year also presents special challenges, and some programs designed to help at the local level, they're simply not enforced at every location. So I presented all of these issues at the last Council of Governors meeting, which was back in early November, and I asked for the governors' help in spreading the word among their colleagues that we need to do better. And the governors agreed to place these issues on their agenda going forward and work to improve state-level support. So we're going to go back to them in February to get the ball rolling on this one. We've also raised it to the Office of the Secretary of Defense so that all of the services and other parts of the federal government can pull in the same direction on these important issues. In addition, the Air Force Judge Advocate Office will study the potential use of the preference model for hiring spouses as on-base attorneys. This is the approach currently used by the Army, and from that we're going to learn what best practices might be incorporated by the Air Force. Finally, on spouse employment, we will revise Air Force policy to offer better support for working spouses. Currently, spouses who leave a Defense Department position to move with their sponsors are authorized leave without pay for a period of 12 months. But as a result of the feedback that we've received at the Spouse and Family Summit, we're going to expand this to 2 years. There are just a few more topics that I want to cover, so hang with me here. We heard about the recent changes to TRICARE reimbursement rates, which forced many of our families to find new health care providers. And so what we're doing is we're now working with the Office of the Secretary of Defense to try and get those reverted to the previous, more generous levels. Also, the National Defense Authorization Act for 2017, which passed Congress last week and is now awaiting the President's signature. That grants 12 weeks of parental leave to the primary caregiver in a family and 3 weeks to the secondary caregiver when they become biological parents. So good news for new parents. Additionally, it gives 6 weeks to a primary adoptive parent and 3 weeks to the secondary parent. Now, these are increases in parental leave, and these categories are now gender neutral, so both mean more flexibility for our families. All of this, I believe, is good news from the NDAA, as is the fact that there will be no changes to BAH for our dual military families this year. Last but not least, we will launch a longer-term education and awareness campaign for our Air Force families on these programs and others that are available to support spouses and family members. We're working on what this campaign will look like, and we'll follow up to make sure that you get the information. I also, by the way, recently had the opportunity to visit Military OneSource. That's the contractor that hosts a lot of the information that we talked about today. I think they're doing a really good job across the board in DoD. So militaryonesource.com, write that down. It's a great place to start if you have more questions. You can also find out more information on everything that I just outlined and more in a news article that we're posting today on af.mil. Thank you, and we look forward to having this conversation. Thanks for tuning in.